So, I've been making replica props for nearly 23 years now, but until recently I'd never made a Buffy the Vampire Slayer replica. Seeing as how it's my favourite show, what's up with that? Before the titles, I asked why I'd never made a Buffy the Vampire Slayer replica prop until recently. And the answer is, I'm a hardware guy. I like hardware. Science fiction-y stuff like laser guns or space helmets. And Buffy's not really a particularly hardware-y show. Apart from the Initiative blasters, or the Nerd's freeze ray gun in season 6, or something I'm about to build that's a secret. And then there's the Buffy bot. But we all know how that ended up. Buffy props have got a much more esoteric, organic kind of thing going on. Magical artifacts, ancient weapons, amulets, orbs. Inspiration struck me a few years back when Channel 4 in the UK rescreened Buffy in high definition. I went into research mode, tried to think out of the box, and I had a lot of fun. Buffy's blessed sword from the Becoming two-parter is an El Cid Tizona, a common enough replica sword made by a lot of Spanish companies. The actual version used is either no longer available or was modified. Most available today have engraved handles and a handguard rod. The handguard and the pommel are usually engraved with a kind of faux medieval pattern. So I had to remove that with the belt sander and cut off a small handguard rod that goes across there. I then re-wrapped the whole of the handle. The blade that was swapped out came from another wall hanger sword known as a rapier, which features a much thinner blade. Fortunately, you can unscrew the pommels of most of these swords, remove the blades, and just easily swap them out. The mysterious Sword of Angelus. Mysterious because there aren't any images of it, and nobody knows what the bloody hell it is. It is believed that armourer Tony Swatton assembled Angelus's Sword of the Virtuous Knight from parts from a bunch of wall hanger swords, but the handguard and pommel have not been identified. If so, it is safe to assume that this model is no longer made. The handguard is clear on screen, the pommel not so much. It could be said that my interpretation of Angelus's sword is the ultimate wall hanger. If you try to have a fight with this thing, it would probably break into dozens of pieces. Unfortunately, CO2 laser cutters can't cut metal, so the handguard was produced from layered acrylic pieces cut on the laser. The pommel was achieved by sculpting in epoxy clay and then using brushed gold acrylic sheet cut with the laser cutter and then a blue plate laid underneath it. The hand grip was rewrapped with a leather thong and then a metal ring attached over the top of it. And it all screws together into one almost wieldable piece. This is one of my favourite builds, the first Slayer's dagger. I love the episode Restless and the mythology surrounding the primitive. I haven't seen anyone else have an attempt at this, but I think it's a really cool prop, so yeah, I had to have a go. But my first thought was, bone. My first thought about how to build the handle was to try and sculpt it from polymer clay. But then after having a looking round a bit, I found what I think was the ideal solution. Shipping a couple of old cow femur bones from the US. The first job I had to do was to saw off the bottom of the bone so they've got a flat part that goes into the crop, which is this part here, which protects the hands. I then had to modify these knobbly bits, which are known as condyles, so it would resemble the screen used prop closer. I did that with milliput. Then a lot of sanding, which again, a lot of bone dust, not very pleasant. I sprayed it white. It was painted with, or hand painted with acrylics, using a lot of browns, yellows, blacks, whites, all sorts of things, and then finally sealed in like a semi-gloss clear coat. The blade was actually drawn in Illustrator using the original prop photos as reference, and then sculpted with milliput for all the textures and surface dents and what have you. It was then sprayed in a kind of aluminium colour, darkened down with acrylics and bloodstains added. The crop is again sculpted from polymer clay and painted, and then basically you just have to screw the 3 bits together. Now, I made a number of copies of this prop for clients, but I eventually found that I was running out of bones. eBay in the US, with their international shipping program, really do not like touching anything organic. Not sure why, but I ended up having one bone I'd ordered sent back to the seller. You don't seem to be able to get them in the UK. I don't know why. We do have cows, but yeah, they're very hard to come by.
This mummy hand has ceased to be. It is an ex-mummy hand.
Mummy hand, mummy hand, mummy hand, mummy hand. This is actually my hand. Well, yeah, it's that one. Now this one, it's actually a bit of a Blue Peter job. If you want to make a copy of your own hand for all the useless things that you can probably do with it, like I don't know, a dog toy or a Buffy mummy hand, then this is how you can go about it. First of all, you need to get a large amount of, or a fairly large amount of liquid latex from your local craft emporium, and then you just paint your hand with liquid latex. Paint it all over, include a bit of your wrist, until it's completely white. And then about 30 minutes later it will have dried and it will go clear. So you do it all over again, and again, and again. And once you've done it about 4 times, you should have like a second skin formed over your hand that you can carefully just peel off. And it comes off like a rubber glove. Now you have to turn it inside out once you've done that. And then you can begin stuffing it. You don't want to stuff it too much, otherwise you could end up with the dreaded fat hand. But yeah, get some cotton wool or anything soft that you can use to fill, and will go and fill up all the fingers. And then you end up with a fairly realistic fake hand. So, you know, with this, I then painted it using acrylics. The liquid latex is actually very easy to paint. These aren't my fingernails. I got them from the local monster shop. Wrapped it up in bandage, and voila. Now you'll probably want a dagger of Lex to spear your mummy hand on. The dagger of Lex was another cheap knockoff piece of weaponry. If you want to find one, it can be found under the name Lion's Pride Dagger, or possibly Dracula's Dagger. I got mine from Amazon, seriously, but you may be able to find them on eBay. Now, I love a good ancient book or manuscript prop, and Buffy is full of them. Around 10 years ago, I was offered the original prop of the Dulac manuscript. Now, I would have loved to have bought it, but unfortunately the price that the seller was asking was above what I had available, so I had to let it go. It stayed with me, and producing a replica was not only an ambitious project, but something of a labour of love. Through research and assistance from historical and art forums, I was able to identify some of the crests as belonging to the medieval Medici family of Florence in Italy. The central painting is a variation of Dante and Beatrice, by 19th century artist Henry Holiday. To reproduce the covers, I painstakingly drew the front and back in Adobe Illustrator, then engraved them in 3mm laser plywood. The covers were then hand painted using different colours of metallic gilding polish, which gives it a nice sheen. I also reproduced some pages of the ancient text the vampire Dalton is trying to translate. These are not clearly seen on screen, but images of the original prop show them clearly. Now once you've got your Delac manuscript, you've got to get your Delac cross to decode it. Then you need to take some blood from your ailing vampire lover's sire, and Bob's your uncle. To recreate the Dulac cross in Illustrator, for reference I used screen captures from the show and the image released by Diamond Select of their unreleased replica. Their version would have replaced the INRI letters with a cross symbol, presumably for fear of offending Christians. My cross was cut in a number of sections, front, back and a middle section cut with the channel to house the dagger. The top section is also a separate part as it acts as a handle for the dagger. Some details were then sculpted in milliput and small half beads attached before spraying with metallic gold paint. Pick a card, any card. And when I was a kid, I used to travel up to London by train and go and visit the London Dungeon. In the gift shop there you could pick up all manner of occult items like Colin Wilson books and tarot cards. So I learned to read the cards a bit and used to do readings for my friends. Then one day some guy got so upset about what I told him that he punched me in the face. I didn't really do tarot readings after that. Drusilla's Tarot is based on the classic Rider-Waite set created in 1910, with the Cyclops card modified from the original Devil card from the Major Arcana. The Crypt, Jaguar, Millipede and Angel cards were original creations of the art department. I recreated the artwork and the card backs in Illustrator and sent them to be printed by a playing card company in Germany. The Amulet of Balthazar, or Fat Guy's Bane.
But what I don't see is what I want to see, and that's my amulet!
It's quite well known in Buffy prop circles, which sounds a bit like crop circles, that the original prop was made from a Kit Ray fantasy dagger. I believe it's called the Chinese Sea Dragon dagger. Now I've tried over the years to get hold of one of these, and they tend to slip through my fingers. It's difficult to import them into the UK from the US, even though it's perfectly legal. So I ended up constructing one of my own. I managed to get the measurements for the original dagger and basically again drew it up in Illustrator in separate parts and cut all of those parts on the laser cutter and the laser engraver and basically join them together. The red jasper in the middle, I found the exact right size on eBay. However, I would love to get hold of one of the original Chinese Sea Dragon daggers. I think this is a reasonable reproduction, but it's better to have things based on the original thing. So if there's anyone out there who can provide me or sell me a Kit Ray Chinese Sea Dragon dagger, please reach out to me, because I'd love to have one. last couple of videos I've covered both my screen used and my replica collection of Buffy props. In the next video I'll be going on a road trip to collect a very interesting prop, and I'll be breaking out the old cow tools to do some restoration and modification. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a like, and if you'd like to see more of this sort of stuff, then hit the subscription button. Cheers.